So when it comes to these two scenarios, we're going to break down a lot of things. I'm going to give you the reason why the genealogy of Matthew and the genealogy of Luke are different. But first things first, the first thing you need to identify is that Matthew is generally dealing with a legal line, okay? And Luke is dealing with a bloodline. And from the outset, from highlighting these two things, you've probably got key insights into where I'm going already, okay? But I'll give you this. If you read through the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, you'll identify and realize that there's a really Jewish theme to it, okay? The miracles Jesus did, the things Matthew references, etc. Even the fact that this lineage goes all the way back to Abraham, okay? And that would be very Jewish. Why? Because the Jewish people, the Israelites, would be expecting a Messiah that would come through the lineage of Abraham or believe through David. Whereas Luke is a Gentile. And what does he focus on? He focuses on a lineage going all the way back down to Adam, okay? Adam, who was the start of creation. The next thing we see is Matthew focuses on Solomon, okay? The most popular, most famous son of David. Luke takes Nathan, who is another son of David through Bathsheba. The next key thing we see, which is really insightful, is we see in Matthew's lineage, you see that it says Jacob begat Joseph. And throughout this lineage, you see begat, okay? Which is, it's talking specifically, physically of descendants, okay? This person had this child, this person had this child, etc. Whereas in the Gospel of Luke, okay, how does it start? Verse 23 talks about Jesus was about 30 years age, okay, being as was supposed, okay, is the first key thing, and it says the son of Joseph who was of Heli. The whole time you're going to see through here is you're going to see of, okay? You're going to continue to see of, because it's taking a sort of different kind of approach to what Matthew's actually taking. So what we actually see when you get to the end or to the top, this is that Luke starts from the top to the bottom. But you see that Joseph, it ends with Joseph, who is Mary's husband, okay? But this specifically is talking about, as I mentioned, Heli, which really draws back to Mary. How do we know this, or how can we infer this? You need to go all the way back to the Old Testament, and this is why I love the Bible so much, because you have to take the Old Testament and the New Testament together. It's a collection. You can't take one and leave the other, or leave one and take the other, etc. Okay? This is where a lot of people run into mistakes. People that cling to the Old Testament too much and not the New Testament, and there's people that cling to the New Testament too much and not the Old Testament. It's one integrated book, one integrated message, which all of the book gives you complete context and clarity. Okay? So going back all the way to Numbers 27 and Numbers 36, ideally, where it talks about these famous women, the daughters of Zelophehad. Why were these women so important? Because in Numbers 27, they went to Moses and basically said, our father is basically dead and he has no sons. We basically are entitled to inheritance. And Moses doesn't turn them away and say, no, you're not a guy, get out of here. No, he goes to God, and God says what they're saying is actually right. Okay, if a man dies and has no children but has a daughter or daughters, his inheritance passes to the daughters. Okay, and obviously in 36, the key doctrine, the key precedent we get there is that the people from the children of Joseph, okay, whose tribe they are from, basically, I believe it's Manasseh, they basically come along and say that they can't marry out of the tribe, or the inheritance is going to be lost. And God basically says, yes, okay, stay within your tribe. This is important because what would basically happen is, if a man died with no sons and he only had daughters, she had to marry within the lineage, first and foremost, okay? So if you look at these references here, you can see from Ezra 2 verse 61, and reference that with Nehemiah 7 verse 63, and you look at 1 Chronicles 2 verse 21 to 23, and add additional context from Numbers 32 verse 41, and 1 Chronicles 2 verse 34 to 35, you can see that this concept basically started all the way back in Numbers 27, where if a guy died and had no sons, basically, or even if he didn't die and he only had daughters, what would happen is the custom was someone would marry the guy's daughter, and he would basically sort of adopt that person and continue on the lineage. On that note, thanks for tuning in. I recommend you watch this video here next. It's a great video for you to watch based on what we just covered. And if you want to support us even further than subscribing, if you haven't already subscribed already, then there's going to be links in the description box you can use below to support us in various different ways. Thanks and take care.